The number one reason people move into an aged care home is they lose the ability to get on and off the toilet by themselves. They've simply lost the ability to squat. You might not realize it, but chances are your ability to squat isn't as good as you think it is. As you get older, this could look like struggling to get out of a low chair, feeling stiff and wobbly when bending down, or maybe even dealing with some nagging pain in your knees, your hips, or even your lower back. Sound familiar? This could all be due to having poor squat mobility, and it's increasingly common as you get older. In this video, I'm going to share my 3 top tips to improve your squat mobility with easy to follow exercises that are age and beginner friendly and will have you moving better in no time. If you're like most people, you probably spend less and less time taking your joints through a full range of motion. As time wears on, this makes joints stiffen up and further contributes to reduced ability to do certain movements, in our case, a good squat. Think of it like a hinge on a door. If you don't open it for ages, it's going to be stiff and creaky. Eventually it rusts up and becomes really tough to open. As a real-world example of this, I'm going to tell you the story of an Indian man named Amar Bharati, who intentionally did not take one of his joints through any range of motion until it seized up entirely and is now as stiff as the trunk of a tree. My name is Don Baker. I'm a physio that helps older adults. My goal with this channel is simply to provide simple and valuable information so you and your loved ones can stay strong, independent, and pain-free as you get older and the wrinkles start to set in. Poor squat mobility doesn't just make life harder, it's a big reason why so many people lose their independence as they age. Now there's 3 things you can do to drastically improve your squat mobility, and we're going to cover these from the ground up. The first is ankle range of motion. In my last video, I talked about the heels coming up in the squat as a big mistake and the reasons to why. If you missed that video, be sure to check it out after this one. The better your ankles are at bending or dorsiflexion, the better you'll be at keeping your heels down and your squat gets a big boost. Here's an exercise to improve that. Face a wall, have your toes touching it, and bend the knee until it touches the wall. The goal is to do this without your heel rising. If you've got that, move your toes away from the wall about 1 centimeter and repeat. Continue until you find the point where your heel just starts to rise. You should feel a really good stretch in your lower calf at this point. Now all we're going to do is stay here for a while, ideally 2 to 5 minutes. This time frame allows the passive structures in the body to relax and begin to lengthen. Make sure you swap both legs. A great baseline measure for good ankle range of motion is to achieve a fist distance from wall to toe. The second thing we're going to work on is your adductor flexibility. Now your adductors are commonly referred to as your groin muscles, but they don't just live around the inside of your pelvis. They run all the way down the inside to your knee. Tight adductors act to pull the knees inwards as you squat, limiting your depth and can make you as wobbly as a 3-legged dog trying to To improve this, we're going to sit down into a straddle position, spread the legs wide, and you will feel a really good stretch in the inside of your thigh. I like to anchor my feet against a wall or a couch. In this video, I'm using a barbell so you can see it easily. Again, hold this anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes, whatever you can tolerate. And if you have trouble getting down to the floor to do this, you can always do a standing adductor stretch. Hold onto something for balance, spread the legs wide, and lean to the side. Keep that opposite leg nice and straight until you feel a good stretch. Now, earlier I mentioned Amar Bharati. So this bloke is renowned for holding his right arm overhead since 1973. Back then, he quit his job, ditched his family, and raised his hand as an act of devotion to the Hindu deity Shiva and as a plea for world peace. Initially, Bharati endured severe pain for about 2 years. 2 years, stuff that. Over time, he lost sensation in the arm, the muscles wasted away, and his arm became fixed in its raised position. This is obviously an extreme example of what I was talking about earlier, not taking your joints through their full range of motion, leading to the loss of that range. This guy just decided to voluntarily take it to the next level and not move it at all, and in the most uncomfortable position possible for his shoulder. 2 years of extreme pain. I sit in a cramped airline seat for a couple of hours and I'm complaining about aches and pains. I don't know if he's an idiot, a misunderstood genius, or his teacher just never got round to asking what his question was. But whatever the case, it shows what can happen when you don't let your joints express a full range of motion often, or in his case, any range of motion. It really is a use it or lose it scenario. Third and final, we have hip mobility. Now this varies immensely from person to person. There's a lot to it, but the long and the short of it comes down to the shape, the size, and the angle of your femur or your thigh bone, and then the depth and direction of your acetabulum. That's the socket where your femur, the head of the femur, sits. It also comes down to how they interlock and even how stretchy your collagen fibers are that make up your joint capsule. With so many contributing factors, it's no wonder there's a difference between squats. But no matter how you're made, improving your hip mobility improves your squat. By allowing your hips the freedom to move more, most people can reach a greater depth with better control, more stability, and a straighter, more aligned pelvis and low back, which is better for when you want to start adding weight. One of my go-to exercises for oldies in my clinic is to lie down on the floor. Have one hand on your foot and the other on your knee. Hug your knee to the opposite shoulder whilst bringing the foot in the same direction. You should feel a great stretch on the outside of your glutes. Again, 2 to 5 minutes each leg and you're all set. Do all 3 of these moves and you'll be squatting like a Filipino street vendor in no time. In just a few minutes, these moves can make a big difference to your squat ability, and for a lot of you oldies, your quality of life too. And it might just help you stay in your own home that little bit longer. You'll find low chairs, toilet seats, stairs, all just that little bit easier. However, there's another exercise I think is just as important as the squat, and it's actually missed by most people over 60. Watch my next video to find out what it is and just why that's so important.